The marketplace of Doros 5 was loud and crowded, filled with voices of many species. Metal stalls stood in long rows, each selling food, tools, or crystals mined from the planet's rocks. The air smelled of dust and oil, and banners of alien languages hung above the shops. Traders shouted prices, buyers argued, and workers carried heavy loads across the wide street. Eli Mercer walked through the crowd with slow, careful steps. He was a human, tall compared to most aliens here, with short brown hair and a worn jacket that showed he had traveled far. His ship was small, his money even smaller, but he came here often to trade spare parts or simple medicines. Most aliens did not notice him, but some looked at him with curiosity. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Eli stopped at a stall, studying a set of shining stones. The seller, a green-skinned Tharek, lowered his eyes. "Not for you, human," the alien said quickly. "Go on, move. Others wait." Eli gave a tired smile and stepped back. He was used to it. Many aliens believed humans were reckless troublemakers. Few trusted them. He had learned not to argue. But then, through the noise of the crowd, Eli heard a strange sound. It was not bargaining, not shouting, not the clang of metal. It was the thin, broken cry of a child. He turned his head. At the far edge of the street, near the shadow of a broken wall, a small figure stood. It was a child of the Veyari, one of the more delicate alien races. The Veyari had pale, almost transparent skin and large, round eyes that glowed faintly under the sun. Their bodies were slender, their movements quick, almost bird-like. The child looked no older than 8 in human years. She was crying, her hands clutched at the arm of another small figure lying on the ground. "Please," she sobbed in her own language, though Eli could still understand. Many traders used a common tongue here. "Please help. My sister. She won't stop. Shaking." Eli's eyes narrowed. The girl on the ground, slightly older, was trembling hard. Her thin arms shook as if she could not control them. Her eyes rolled back and her lips moved as though whispering words no one could hear. The crowd saw them. But instead of helping, the aliens stepped back. Some muttered about a curse. Others waved their hands, saying, "Stay away." A tall insectoid hissed, "Sickness, leave them, do not touch." The younger child cried louder, holding her sister's hand. "Please, please, someone. She is all I have." Eli did not move at first. He had been warned many times, never interfere with alien customs. Some species treated sickness with fear. Others believed it was punishment from their gods. A human stepping in could cause anger, maybe even violence. But as he looked at the girl on the ground, her fragile body shaking, Eli felt something inside him. He remembered his own little sister, long gone now, back on Earth. He remembered when she had been sick, and how helpless he had felt. The child's voice cut into his chest. "Please save her." Eli pushed forward through the crowd. The alien stared at him, shocked, as he knelt beside the sisters. "Easy," he said softly, his voice calm. He looked at the younger child. "What's your name?" She sniffed, wiping her eyes. "Luma." "All right, Luma," Eli said. "Your sister needs help. I'll try." The crowd murmured. "Human, stop. You will bring the curse on yourself," one alien shouted. Another hissed, "Let them be. It is fate." Eli ignored them. He touched the sick girl's forehead. She was burning hot, her skin damp with sweat. Her tremors were violent but not endless. He had seen fever fits before in human children. It was not a curse, it was sickness. "Her name?" Eli asked. "Sira," whispered Luma. She's my sister. She just fell." Then she started, shaking. "No one will help us." Tears streamed down her face. "Please don't leave." "I won't," Eli said. His voice was firm now. He reached into his bag, pulling out a small flask of water. He lifted Sira's head carefully, giving her lips a few drops. She swallowed weakly. The shaking slowed for a moment. The crowd grew restless. Mad human. He will spread the sickness to all of us. Fool. He will die too. Eli turned, his sharp eyes meeting them. She's not cursed, he said loudly. She's sick, and sick children need care, not fear. Silence followed. For a moment. No one answered him. Some backed away farther. Others looked down in shame. But none stepped forward. Eli picked Sira up gently in his arms. She was so light it felt like carrying a bundle of cloth. Luma gasped. Where are you taking her? To my quarters, Eli said. She'll be safe there. I'll do what I can. The little alien nodded quickly and ran at his side, never letting go of his sleeve. The walk back to Eli's quarters was long. He lived near the edge of the colony, in a rented metal hut left from an old mining crew. As he walked, Luma kept glancing at her sister's face, whispering encouragements in her soft alien tongue. Will she live? She asked in a trembling voice. I'll do everything I can, Eli answered. Inside his hut, the air was cooler. Eli laid Sira on his small cot and checked her again. Her body was still shaking, though less violently now. Her breathing was shallow, but steady. He lit a small heater, wrapped her in blankets, and began mixing simple herbs in a cup of warm water. He always carried a few human remedies, things most aliens ignored, but sometimes they worked when nothing else did. He carefully lifted Sira's head and helped her sip. Luma sat on the floor, hugging her knees, watching every movement with wide eyes. You're not afraid? She asked quietly. No, Eli said. Fear doesn't heal anyone. The child tilted her head. Why do you help us? We are not your kind. No one else would. Eli looked at her. Because you asked, and because she's your sister. If I turned away, what would that make me? Luma's eyes grew wet again, but this time she did not cry loudly. She only whispered, Thank you, human. Hours passed. The night outside grew quiet. Sira's shaking slowed to small tremors. Her fever still burned, but she no longer gasped for air. Eli stayed at her side, wiping her forehead with cool cloths, checking her pulse, watching her carefully. Luma never left the corner of the bed. At one point, she fell asleep leaning against Eli's chair. He looked at the two sisters, the frail, older one fighting for breath and the small younger one clinging to hope, and he knew he had made the right choice. But outside, whispers began to spread in the colony. The human had taken the cursed girl. He was touching what no one dared. Some called him brave. Others called him foolish. The alien authorities would soon hear of this. For now, inside the small hut, only the sound of slow breathing filled the air. Eli kept his eyes open, determined not to fail. He had promised Luma he would help, and Eli Mercer never broke a promise. The morning light of Doros 5 slipped through the cracks in the hut's walls. Eli Mercer sat beside the cot, his head bowed slightly, eyes half closed but still awake. He had not slept all night. He stayed near the alien girl, Sira, watching her fever rise and fall like a wave. Her body no longer shook as violently as before, but small tremors still moved through her arms and legs from time to time. Her breathing was steadier now, though heavy. Sweat covered her forehead, and her lips were pale. Beside the cot, Luma sat on a wooden stool, clutching her knees to her chest. Her big round eyes stayed fixed on her sister. She had not spoken much since last night, afraid that even a sound might disturb Sira. When Eli stood and stretched his tired arms, Luma whispered, She is better? Eli looked at the girl on the bed. A little, he said softly. Her fever is still strong, but she is fighting. That means she has a chance. Luma tilted her head. Fighting? She is only lying there. Eli gave a small smile. The body fights sickness even when the person cannot move. Her body is trying hard to push it away. Luma blinked, as if she was trying to understand. So, she is brave, even now? Yes, Eli said. Very brave. The little alien's lips trembled. but this time she smiled faintly instead of crying. Eli stepped to the small table in the corner of the hut. He opened a box filled with things he had collected from different worlds, small packets of herbs, water purifiers, and human-made cloths. None of them were special to aliens, but to him they were useful tools. He crushed some herbs into a pot of warm water and stirred until the steam filled the room. Then he dipped a cloth into the liquid and pressed it gently to Sira's forehead. The girl's eyes moved slightly. Her lips opened. A faint sound escaped like a sigh. Luma gasped and grabbed Eli's sleeve. She spoke. She made a sound. Eli nodded calmly. That's good. It means she feels what's around her. He looked at Luma. Can you help me, little one? Yes, Luma said quickly. Good, Eli replied. He pointed to a small cup on the table. Hold that. When I lift her, you bring the cup close to her mouth. She needs to drink. Together they worked. Eli lifted Sira carefully, supporting her head with his hand. Luma held the cup with shaking arms. Steady, Eli said gently. Don't rush, just a little. He touched the rim of the cup to Sira's lips. Slowly, carefully, a few drops entered her mouth. At first, nothing happened. Then, with weak effort, Sira swallowed. She did it, Luma whispered, eyes shining. Yes, Eli said with a smile. Now we give her more. Not too much at once. Slow and steady. That is the human way. The human way? Luma repeated, curiously. Eli nodded. Step by step. Even small drops of water can save someone if you do not give up. Luma thought for a moment, then whispered to her sister, Hear that, Sira? The human way is slow but strong. You will get better. As the hours passed, Sira drank more water and the fever lessened. Her shaking became rare, only a twitch now and then. Eli worked quickly. The colony of Doros 5 woke early. The mining bells rang in the distance, calling workers to the tunnels. Lights flashed on in the market square, and the smell of cooked roots drifted through the air. But whispers spread faster than the morning. Trade. Everyone had heard by now. The human, Eli Mercer, had taken the sick Vayari girl into his hut. Some said he was foolish. Others said he was brave. Many feared what this meant for the colony. Inside his small hut, Eli sat by the cot where Sira lay. Her breathing was steadier now, though weak. The violent shaking of her body had almost ended. She looked fragile, like glass that could break with a touch, but her chest rose and fell in calm rhythm. Luma, her younger sister, never left her side. She held Sira's thin hand tightly and whispered to her. When Eli checked Sira's forehead, he nodded in relief. Her fever has lowered more, he said. Luma's big eyes filled with joy. So she will live? Eli smiled faintly. I cannot promise yet. But her body is winning the fight. Luma's small voice grew firm. She will live. I know it. Eli admired her courage. She was only a child, yet she carried hope stronger than many adults. As the morning grew brighter, a loud knock came at the door. Eli stood up quickly, his muscles tense. He opened it to find Varkesh, the tall-scaled officer of the colony, standing with 2 guards. His yellow eyes glowed with suspicion. Human, Varkesh said coldly. You are keeping the Vayari child. Inside, against our orders. Hand her over now. Luma jumped up and clung to Eli's arm. No, she cried. He saved her. He is helping her. Don't take her away. Varkesh's lip curled. Little one, you do not understand. Your sister carries danger. If she remains, the whole colony may fall sick. Eli's voice was calm but strong. She is not cursed. She is poisoned. Her body reacted to something in the environment. I have seen this before. The officer's eyes narrowed. You speak as if you know more than our doctors. Eli did not look away. I know enough to see truth. Fear will not cure her. Care will. The guards shifted uncomfortably. None dared argue with their officer, but some avoided Eli's eyes, ashamed. Varkesh hissed low. Your recklessness will doom us, human. If the sickness spreads, it will be on your head. She is not spreading sickness, Eli said firmly. If you would look closer, you would see. But the officer turned sharply and left, his tail scraping the ground behind him. The guards followed. Luma trembled as the door closed. They want to take her. They want to send her away to die. Eli knelt, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. I will not let them, but we must be smart. If I can prove the cause of her sickness, they cannot deny it. Luma's eyes widened. Prove? How? Eli thought for a long moment. This colony uses old life support vents, yes? I have seen the filters. They are clogged, broken. Poison seeps from them. Luma nodded quickly. Yes. Yes. Sometimes the air smells sharp, like burning metal. Sira worked near the vents last week. Then that is the answer, Eli said. She is not cursed. She is poisoned by the vents. Later that day, Eli left the hut with Luma at his side. He carried a small scanner from his ship, one of the few tools he still had. Together they walked toward the old industrial section, where vents released faint streams of smoke into the air. The closer they came, the stronger the smell grew, acidic, biting at the nose. Luma covered her mouth with her sleeve. It stings, she whispered. Eli nodded grimly. Yes, this is the cause. Too much exposure makes the body weak, shaking and feverish. He scanned the vent walls. The screen flashed red. Toxic buildup, he muttered. This could harm anyone. Your sister was unlucky to be near it longer than most. Luma's eyes filled with tears. So it is not a curse? It is the colony itself hurting her? Yes, Eli said firmly, and I will show this truth to them. But as they turned back, two aliens stepped from the shadows, guards again. Human, one said sharply. You are forbidden here. Leave at once. Eli tightened his grip on the scanner. I was only checking the vents. Do you not smell it yourselves? This poison is real. The guards looked uneasy, but one shook his head. Do not question the colony's ways. Return to your hut or we will escort you. Eli felt anger rise but kept his voice calm. Very well. But know this. If more children fall sick, you will remember this moment. He turned and walked away with Luma. The guards did not follow, but their eyes stayed hard on his back. Back at the hut, Sira stirred again. Her eyes opened for the first time, only halfway, but it was enough. Luma cried out in joy, rushing to her side. Sira, you see me? It's me, Luma. Sira's lips moved weakly. A faint sound came out. Luma. Tears ran down the little alien's face as she held her sister's hand. She knows me. She speaks my name. Eli smiled, relief flooding his chest. She is fighting her way back, step by step. But even as joy filled the room, a shadow remained. The colony leaders would not stay silent. Suspicion grew like fire in dry grass. Some whispered that the human was hiding danger. Others whispered that perhaps he had discovered something they did not want revealed. That evening, a small group of aliens came to the hut. Not officers, not guards, just ordinary colonists. They stood outside, hesitant, until Eli stepped out. One of them, a short woman with crystal-like skin, spoke. Human, is it true? The girl is not cursed? Eli looked at her calmly. Yes. She is poisoned by the vents. I have proof. He held up the scanner. This shows the air is dangerous. Your leaders do not want to face it. The aliens exchanged worried glances. If this is true, another said, then any of us could fall sick. Exactly, Eli said, but instead of fixing the vents, they hide behind fear. The small crowd murmured uneasily. Some looked angry. Others looked afraid. But Eli saw something else too. Hope. Perhaps for the first time they wondered if the human was right. Inside the hut, Luma sat with Sira, humming a soft tune. Her voice was sweet, and though weak, Sira's lips curved into a faint smile. When Eli returned, Luma looked up. They will not listen, will they? Some will, Eli said. Truth spreads slowly, but it spreads. Luma nodded, her small hands squeezing her sister's gently. We will keep fighting, the human way. Eli's eyes softened. Yes, the human way. That night, Eli could not sleep. He sat by the cot, staring into the dim glow of the heater. He knew Varkesh and the colony leaders would not wait much longer. They would come again with more guards, perhaps even force. But he also knew this. He had chosen his path. He would not let fear rule. He would not abandon these two fragile sisters. Humans were often seen as reckless in the galaxy. Maybe they were. But sometimes recklessness was simply another word for courage. Eli Mercer would show them that. Outside, the wind carried dust across the colony. Suspicion grew in the hearts of many. But inside the hut, a faint sound of hope rose, the slow, steady breath of a girl who was no longer lost, and the promise of a human who refused to let go. The morning on Doros 5 was sharp and dry, the light cutting through the metal rooftops of the colony. The market streets were busy again, but Eli Mercer did not linger there. His mind was set on a mission to save Sira completely. He had studied the vents and discovered the cause of her sickness. Poisonous, air from old neglected systems. But now he needed materials to make a proper cure and protect the girls. Some rare minerals and purified water were essential. Without them, Sira's recovery could fail. Luma stood beside him in the hut, her small hands clasped tightly. Human, we will go with you, she asked. Her voice was both eager and nervous. Eli glanced at her. You cannot stay in the hut alone. It is too dangerous. But outside, you must be careful. I can be careful, she said quickly. I want to help my sister. Eli studied her for a long moment. She was tiny, delicate, but her eyes were bright with determination. Finally, he nodded. All right, we go together, step by step, human way. They left the hut quietly, slipping past early morning traders and curious eyes. Most colonists had already heard whispers of the human protecting the girls, but no one stopped them. Eli knew they would report him eventually. For now, he moved, fast. The path led toward the old industrial sector, long abandoned by the colony. The walls were tall, covered with rust and streaks of old paint. Dust drifted in the sunlight. The air smelled bitter, full of leftover chemicals from previous mining work. Luma held Eli's sleeve tightly. It stings, she said softly, flinching as a puff of dust brushed her face. Eli gave her a reassuring nod. Yes, but we move quickly. We do not breathe too deeply. They passed broken machinery, fallen crates, and the occasional abandoned robot. Eli scanned every corner with his device, detecting small traces of the poisoned air and minerals needed for Sira's cure. Suddenly, a low growl echoed across the empty sector. Eli froze. From behind a broken wall, a creature stepped out. It had long legs, a thin gray body, and two glowing eyes that studied them carefully. Luma gasped. A beast! Eli stepped in front of her. Stay calm, he said softly. Do not run. Move slowly, follow me. The creature sniffed the air, then took a few steps closer. Its growl deepened. Eli lifted his hand and pulled a small flare from his belt. He clicked it on. The flare lit up with a bright, non-harmful light. The creature froze, blinking at the sudden glow. Step back, Eli whispered to Luma. She obeyed, holding his arm tightly. After a tense moment, the creature turned and slinked back into the shadows. Eli exhaled. That was close. Always expect danger outside the safe areas. It is part of the human way. Caution first, then action. Luma nodded, eyes wide. I understand. The sun rose over Doros 5 with a pale golden light, painting the colony in soft colors. Birds of metal and flesh, small mechanical creatures used for surveying, flitted between the buildings. The market streets slowly came alive with traders. workers, and the usual bustle of life. But something unusual hung in the air. Whispers of fear, doubt, and curiosity followed every passerby. Eli Mercer had stayed awake most of the night, planning. The last few days had taught him that courage alone was not enough. He needed a plan. Sira's sickness was slowly improving, but the colony leaders were growing restless. They would not wait much longer before taking action. Luma sat on the floor beside Sira, brushing the girl's pale hair from her forehead. "Do you think they will come for her?" she asked quietly. Eli knelt beside them, his hand resting gently on Sira's shoulder. "Yes," he said calmly. "But we will be ready. We do not run from fear. We face it with knowledge and courage." Luma looked up at him. "Like you always say, the human way?" Eli nodded. "Exactly, the human way." Mid-morning, the whispers outside had grown into a hum of activity. Workers stopped what they were doing to peer at Eli's hut, and small groups of aliens gathered in the streets. Some were angry, others were curious. But one thing was clear. Word of the human protecting the Veyari sisters had spread across the colony. Then the first group of officials arrived. Tall, imposing figures in dark armor stepped carefully onto the metal path leading to Eli's hut. At their head was Varkesh, his yellow eyes flashing with irritation. "Human," Varkesh said, his voice sharp as metal. "You have defied the colony's orders for too long. Hand over the girl immediately." Eli stood tall, placing himself in front of Sira. Luma held her sister's hand tightly behind him. "She is not cursed," Eli said. "She is poisoned by the vents. I have proof. She needs care, not exile," Varkesh hissed. "Your words mean nothing. You are a stranger here. The rules of this colony are clear. Disobeying them will have consequences." "Consequences are nothing if a life is at stake," Eli replied calmly. "You may take me, but you will not take her." The guards behind. Varkesh shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had seen Sira's fragile condition themselves. They knew she was truly sick. The small crowd of colonists outside the hut grew larger, drawn by the confrontation. Some whispered that Eli was foolish, but others whispered admiration. A short, crystal-skinned woman stepped forward. "Varkesh," she said. "He is telling the truth. The vents are dangerous. I have smelled it myself." Another voice joined hers. "Yes, I work near the old machines. The air is poisoned. If he is correct, many could fall ill." Varkesh's tail flicked in irritation. "Do not speak. The human may be skilled, but he does not command this colony." Eli looked around at the growing crowd. Their eyes were filled with fear, doubt, and a faint spark of hope. He took a deep breath and spoke firmly. "The rules of a colony are important, yes, but rules cannot protect a life that is threatened by negligence. Look at her." He pointed to Sira, lying on the cot, pale but breathing steadily. "She is alive now because we acted with care, step by step, the human way." Some aliens gasped at the words. Others nodded slowly. Whispers of agreement spread through the crowd. Varkesh slammed a hand on the ground. "Enough. You will release the child at once, or face removal." Eli's gaze did not waver. "I will not release her to danger. She belongs to her sister and to care, not fear." A silence fell. The officers stared at him. The colonists stared at him. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then Luma stepped forward. She was small, barely a foot taller than the cot, but her voice rang clear. "You will not take my sister. He saved her when no one else would. I will not let you." The crowd turned to Yuan Cho. "Look at the little Veyari girl." Her eyes shone with determination. For the first time, they saw courage not in a human, not in a leader, but in a child. Eli placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Good," he whispered. "Stand firm. Step by step. Human way," Varkesh hissed, his patience breaking. "You are both foolish. Guards, remove them at once." The two guards stepped forward, but some colonists blocked their path. The short, crystal-skinned woman moved in front of Eli. "No, you will not touch them," she said firmly. Others joined. One by one, colonists formed a barrier between the guards and the hut. Some brought simple tools, sticks, crates, but none were aggressive. They only stood firm. Varkesh's eyes flashed with anger. "Do you defy the colony?" he demanded. "Yes," Eli said calmly. "We defy fear, not the colony, and we follow truth. That is stronger than any rule made in ignorance." The crowd murmured again, some nodding, some whispering to neighbors. Slowly, the officers realized they did not have the support of the people. The human had done what they thought impossible, inspired courage without weapons. Eli knelt beside Sira. She stirred slightly, her lips forming a weak smile. Luma whispered to her sister, "He is here. We are safe. Step by step, human way." Sira's eyes opened slightly. She looked around, confused at first, then focused on Eli and Luma. "Luma," she whispered. "Yes, Sira," Luma said. "You are safe." The crowd outside gasped. Even the most skeptical colonists could see the result of courage and care. Eli addressed Varkesh again. "You see the proof. Fear alone does not heal. Care, knowledge, and courage heal. Step by step. That is the human way." Varkesh's tail lashed. He glanced at the crowd and realized he had no support. Some citizens muttered to each other, pointing at the vents in the hut. Slowly, he stepped back. "This is not over," he hissed. "But for now, you remain." After the officers left, the crowd slowly dispersed. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others approached Eli cautiously, offering thanks and small gifts, water, food, and soft cloths. One man said, "You have shown us something we forgot. Courage is stronger than fear." Luma hugged Eli tightly. "See, Sira? He kept his promise. He saved us." Sira's lips curled into a faint smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Eli smiled back. "You are the brave ones. You fight with your hearts. I only guide you." The storm of fear that had hovered over the colony began to fade. Slowly, people started to repair the neglected vents and old machinery. Eli had shown them the truth. Ignoring danger out of fear harmed everyone. Step by step, they could fix it. Step by step, they could heal. That night, the hut was quiet. Sira slept, her breathing steady. Luma rested beside her, sister exhausted but happy. Eli sat in the chair watching over them, feeling a quiet pride. He had faced fear, he had faced suspicion, and he had stood firm. The human way, he thought, was not always the fastest path. It was not the easiest, but it was the strongest. Courage, care, knowledge, and persistence, these could change hearts, save lives, and inspire hope. Outside, the stars of Doros 5 twinkled softly. The colony slept uneasily, but the seed of change had been planted. A human, once a stranger, had reminded them what courage and compassion could achieve. And inside the small hut, two sisters, fragile but brave, rested safely, protected by a human who refused to turn away. Eli Mercer closed his eyes for a moment. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but for tonight, he allowed himself a quiet satisfaction. Step by step, the human way had made a difference, and that difference, he knew, could grow. The sun rose slowly over Doros 5, painting the colony in soft golden hues. The market streets were filled with early risers, the usual clatter of metal carts and chatter of traders filling the air. But today, something felt different. A subtle change had settled across the colony, a quiet energy born of courage and hope. Inside a small hut at the edge of the colony, Eli Mercer sat beside Sira's cot. Her breathing was steady, almost peaceful, and her pale cheeks showed the faintest touch of color. Luma sat on the floor, brushing her sister's hair gently with careful, tender strokes. The small Vayari girl's eyes glimmered with life again, And Eli could not help but smile. She is stronger now, Eli said softly. Every day a little stronger, step by step human way. Luma's eyes sparkled. Yes. She will be all right now, won't she? Eli nodded. Yes. We have done everything we can. Now she needs rest and care. The rest will follow naturally. The little alien smiled faintly, holding her sister's hand tighter. Thank you, human, for everything. Eli shook his head. No thanks needed. You and your sister have been brave. I only helped guide you. Outside, the colony buzzed with activity. The events of the past days had spread quickly, and the citizens now spoke in hushed but admiring tones about the human who had faced the leaders, protected the Veyari sisters, and proven that courage and care could triumph over fear. Some had begun to inspect the old vents themselves, noting the dangerous air that had harmed so many. Repairs had begun, slow but steady. Varkesh, the tall, scaled officer, walked through the streets with a furrowed brow. He had not yet forgotten his humiliation, but even he could not ignore the truth. People were talking, watching, questioning. The human had forced them to see what they had neglected. He could bark orders, but he could not make the colony forget what they had witnessed. Varkesh's assistant whispered to him, Perhaps. The human was right. The vents are dangerous. If more children fall sick, it will be your responsibility. Varkesh hissed, his tail flicking angrily. I do not like it, but he cannot be ignored. We will watch carefully. Even he realized that the balance of the colony had shifted. Inside the hut, Eli prepared a simple breakfast, a cup of warm water, lightly crushed minerals, and some soft bread from the local traders. Luma, H.